The ZA Tech Show is made possible by Snapdragon, the all-in-one mobile processor. To win a tablet or smartphone, visit www.zatechshow.co.za/Snapdragon. And by Sharp. Check out the amazing new Sharp Interactive LED at www.sharpinteractive.co.za.
Good evening and welcome to the ZA Tech Show episode number 222. That's right, 222. I don't know what that means. Probably nothing. My name is Simon Dingle. I will be your host this evening. I have to say that it's kind of weird. I usually host the show, except for the last sort of month. I haven't really. But I'm back. It's good to be back. And without further ado, let's jump into introducing our panel for this evening. It's been a long evening of eyeing birthday cake and trying to sort out mixing desks. Hence my confusion of the word panel and channel, which is what I was trying to fix. The panel doesn't need any fixing. Dave Greenway is here.
I try.
Hi, Dave Greenway.
How you doing?
I'm all right, thanks. How are you doing?
Very good.
At Dave Greenway on Twitter.
Yes.
And also from a company called Shop and Ship.
Yes.
3 guesses as to what they do.
Chocolate chip cookies?
No, Arthur.
Oh, God, I wish.
That's Arthur Goldstuck, foremost technology analyst in South Africa, MD of Worldwide Works. Good to have you back on the show, Arthur.
Thank you, Simon.
How many gadgets have you brought with this time?
Last
time you were on the show, you had about 12.
Only 5.
8 of which were tablets.
But I also brought Jan along, and I think he's the backup supplier.
Yeah.
Although, why I'm really pleased to be on the show tonight is because of Jan's birthday cake.
Yes, we'll introduce our debutant in a minute. But first, Arthur, you must tell us about all of the exciting things you've been up to, because you've been releasing, it seems like, a slew of research lately, and there's more on the way.
That's what I'd like to chat about this evening, particularly the research we released last week on the market share of the different cell phone brands in South Africa and the smartphone brands, and also drilling down a little bit into them, because we've been scrutinizing our data on the brand choice, and it's quite fascinating to see what impact urban and rural has, age, gender sometimes, but not much, and education and income, of course.
And these are numbers, I think if you're any business in South Africa, these are numbers that you should be very interested in.
I would imagine so. I would imagine that anyone who's marketing in South Africa today has to understand how people are using their phones, what phones they're using, and who is using what phones, and who is using what phones how.
And you will find you'll find things happening in our local market that you probably wouldn't have guessed, and that certainly don't align with international trends. Like South Africa has a couple of BlackBerry users still.
A few.
Which is amazing.
A few. Only about 5 million, though.
All right.
Out of about 10 million smartphones on the market, just under 5 million, about 48% are BlackBerries, 40% Nokia.
That's a lot.
And then way behind, around about 8% is Android, rising, and half of that, 4%, of smartphones, not the total market, is what's it
8% of smartphones are Android in South Africa.
Correct. Everyone imagines because the Galaxy S3 is so popular and prominent that obviously everyone now is carrying a Galaxy S3. But damn it, that thing costs 7,500 rand.
Yeah, but the Android phones, they cost less than half of that.
Yeah, the Android phone's costing $1,000, in fact.
Indeed, but they're not really capturing people's imagination.
Okay.
There's not a single Android phone outside of the Galaxy range that's really caught people's imagination. And the HTC One X, I have to say, but again, that's one of those 7,500 rand phones that 0.5% of the market can afford, let alone buy.
Well, there you have it. Let's introduce Jan Vermeulen, who's here from My Broadband.
Howdy.
First time on the show. It's good to have you, Jan.
Thank you very much.
We've been kind of hinting for a while, but it's good to finally get you on.
Cool. Yeah, it's good to be here.
What
Thanks
else
for
are you up
inviting
to? You've also got some podcasts that you're frequently involved in.
Yeah.
And you're on Twitter at JanVZA.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, unfortunately,
VZA.
all the cool ones were taken. And so I ended up switching from a rather informal Twitter name when I started writing permanently. I had to apparently, get a formal Twitter account. So, and Jan VZA was there.
And tell us about your podcasts.
Sure. The podcast I'm most involved in is Let's Talk Geek. It's part of the Let's Talk Network group.
Cool.
And we get together on a Wednesday, so as not to conflict with you guys. And
Thank you very much.
and so we talk geek, as the name would imply.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Well,
So
there you have
that's headed up by Tim Hawk.
What you read from Star Wars scripts.
On occasion, when we really feel like riveting our listenership.
Cool. Well, it's good to have you on the show, Jan.
Thanks a lot.
I hope
Sorry,
it'll be
I
the first of many appearances.
Yeah, I hope so too.
Cool. So I don't know where to kick off this evening. I want to spend more time on Arthur's research because it's fascinating me. There's also been one of those big Twitter storms in a teacup today because shock horror. It turns out some people have been buying Twitter followers in South Africa
Gosh,
and elsewhere.
Say it ain't so.
And then there's a new music service launching in South Africa that I'm quite excited about that I'm sure we all want to talk about, Simfi. You might have seen people talking about that on the Twitters and elsewhere recently. But I think, I don't know, let's talk a little bit more about your research, Arthur, because we've opened that can of worms. So we may as well now consume it if I continue the
yeah, there are
metaphor.
far worse cans of worms to open, but for some people, these are scary numbers.
Yeah, well,
So-
I mean, just to recap, the Nokia stat I thought was quite interesting. You know, the BlackBerry one obviously would surprise other people who think BlackBerry's dead, but Nokia is you said 40% of the smartphone market share. Did I hear right?
Correct.
All right. So what's interesting to me about that is that Nokia also has 50% of the overall cell phone market share, and my initial assumption there was that that comes purely off of their low end stuff, but they've got a fairly significant proportion of the smartphone market as well.
People tend to forget that one of the classic smartphones in the early days of smartphones was the E72. The Nokia E72 was a phone that people aspired to own because it was the ultimate business phone before BlackBerry really took hold of that particular market. And there were challenges. Sony Ericsson had their various variations. What was it, the P900 or P9000? One forgets because the brand
900.
itself is dead.
But P900, and then they had the X1, I think.
The P900
Yeah.
was the one that also at one stage captured people's imaginations. At the time it came out, it was the aspirational business smartphone of choice. Then
Yeah,
the
everybody
Nokia-
wanted one of those.
Yeah.
And it came with chess on it, which at the time was like, wow, this beats Snake.
For sure. And then came the E72. But I've got to say, to me personally, that was a devastatingly disappointing phone because the browser was just so bad. And it was just waiting for a new generation of smartphones. But I'll tell you a fascinating stat from this. If you look at Nokia's overall market share, which is 50%, and their smartphone market share, which is 40%, and then you break down the overall market share by age, and we just took 3 broad age groups, you find that in the under 25 group or segment, Nokia's market share of the overall market is 40%.
That's
So
interesting.
same market share amongst the youth as in smartphones. So there's probably some crossover there, although I do know that E72 market is an older market, a kind of young executive market. But when you look at where the biggest market lies, it's in the over 45s. 57% of over 45s in South Africa use a Nokia. BlackBerry, it's the exact opposite in terms of the older users. And this is the other big surprise, not to us but to the market, was BlackBerry's overall market share. So everyone knows they're the dominant smartphone. Well, all those who are willing to keep their eyes open. A lot of people thought iPhone was the dominant smartphone in this country because they think everyone's using what they're using. But it turns out that BlackBerry now has, of the overall cell phone market, this is adults aged 16 and over living in cities and towns in South Africa, 18% is BlackBerry's market share, up from 4% 18 months ago. And 18 months ago, our research, in fact, showed that the potential for BlackBerry was to rise to 24%.
Do you think there's a lot of inertia there that's going to start failing them over the coming months, Arthur? I mean, you know, it's circumstantial evidence, but you speak to people out there at the moment, and a lot of BlackBerry users will tell you that they're definitely not going to stay with BlackBerry.
Well, that's what we asked people. We asked people exactly that. What phone are you going to buy
Because I remember
next?
last year, everybody told you they were going to get the BlackBerry next. I remember you say, and we've seen that now.
Yes,
in
correct.
your current results.
24% said that they would get the BlackBerry. 18% actually did get it, and that's because intentions don't always translate into action.
So what are they telling you now?
So now they're saying, and this is equally surprising, 34% are saying they still plan to get a BlackBerry.
Well, that's the thing, is that as many that are leaving the platform is the amount. There's probably still more people that aspirationally want to land up on a BlackBerry. It's sort of the
correct.
entry level into the whole. This is what a smartphone can do. Sort of situation. I mean, most of my friends went BlackBerry and then into either Android or iPhone. That's how they've branched out. So. Everyone starts off somewhere, and it seems BlackBerry in South Africa is the place you start off. You can, eat as much data as you want. You can message. You start figuring out things, and then you move on from there when you want more.
But as we've said in our report, it's the Mobile Consumer in South Africa 2012 report, is that chances are that about half of the additional people that said they would get a BlackBerry next will actually do so. So from 18 to 34% is intentions to get a BlackBerry, but the actual behavior will probably be around from 18% rising up to around 25 to 28%. That still gives BlackBerry a quarter of the market, which is quite startling when you look at how they're struggling in the United States.
Is that in the next 12 months, 18 months?
Next 18 months, by end of 2013.
But
So you can set your clock to ask us how our numbers stack up against
do you
reality.
get the industry asking you again how you define a smartphone? Because
Only
that, of
Nokia.
course, is critical to.
Only Nokia asks us because Nokia's got an issue with the stats.
Well,
about the
according to them,
smartphone
everything's
market.
a smartphone.
Correct. Nokia feels that their feature phones, their high-end feature phones, like the Asha range, they feel that although they're not defined as smartphones, they're indistinguishable from smartphones.
Well, and it's a bit too hard and fast perhaps to say that S40 by default isn't a smartphone. It's got apps, it's got an app store.
If you look at
It doesn't have an upgradable operating system, though.
that's exactly the definition that counts at the end of the day.
But I mean, to contest that point, how many Android phones just don't get upgrades
Yeah,
to the
that's true.
operating system?
That's
Even though it's technically possible.
But that's not the definition. The definition is that it can be upgraded, not whether it does get upgraded. So it doesn't suddenly become a smartphone because the guy decided to exercise that option.
Yeah.
It was a
Well, I
smartphone
mean,
all
Jan's
along.
point is relevant to the practical use of a
Yes,
smartphone,
no question about
but I think you have to draw that line somewhere because we're still segmenting the market in terms of feature phones and smartphones. So somewhere you have to go. Well, here's the cutoff for what qualifies as a smartphone and what doesn't. The fact that your BlackBerry doesn't work half the time, I'm not saying BlackBerries don't. I'm just using it as an example.
That's true.
Insert
It's true.
iPhone. That doesn't matter. What matters is how you define these things and what share of the market that they have.
Yeah, I must say I was picking on Android there, but the fact is there's a lot of BlackBerries that haven't got upgrades to BlackBerry 7 that won't be getting upgrades to the
that's
next
true.
version of BlackBerry.
well, nothing will.
Yeah, and and Windows Phone that's also being left in the lurch. If you're using
Yeah.
a Windows Phone right now, you're not getting Windows Phone 8. You're getting Windows
7.8.
7.8. Yeah.
Which is not something Nokia's
Yeah.
too happy about.
I have to tell you that you can't, through general market research, you can't actually count Windows phones in this market at this stage. It's just too small.
Too small to
You
count,
can't
eh?
pick it up in random sampling of the population.
There was a little bit of latency from Windows Mobile. There were some of those old iPacks and things still floating around
I
that
still
were
have an
stacking
iPac.
up Microsoft's numbers, but I think those have since disappeared along
Yes.
with Palm devices and a lot of other brands we'll never hear from again. That's the thing with disruption, man. It sweeps through a market and it's brutal. If you don't make it, you're dead. And I'd hate for BlackBerry to be the next Palm-like casualty of the market. I don't think they will be.
The good news is that BlackBerry 10 does look incredible.
It does look great, yes.
And in terms of markets like South Africa, Nigeria, Indonesia, Mexico, which are some of BlackBerry's strongholds, and they're big markets, Indonesia especially, 150 million people or so, or more, 180 million. Nigeria, around 160 million people. Those are some of the biggest countries in the world which are BlackBerry strongholds as far as smartphones are concerned, but they're still small markets. But if BlackBerry can maintain that momentum through to the release of BlackBerry 10, then clearly they're going to do exceptionally well there, and that will make up for the losses in America. The problem is the American market is what defines global perceptions of phones,
Yeah.
and that's where BlackBerry is really coming apart at the seams.
So I wanna carry on talking about mobile. I wanna get to the Twitter storm in a teacup, and I definitely want to talk about SimFi. But I think now, while we're talking about all of these mobile phones in the market, is a great time to mention our sponsors of the ZA Tech Show, Snapdragon by Qualcomm. You know, all of these phones that we're talking about, or a good deal of them, are powered by Qualcomm processors, specifically the Snapdragon. If you wanted to get an idea of the amount of devices and some of the devices that are powered by this technology, go to zatechshow.co.za/Snapdragon. We're giving away a total of 12 tablets and smartphones powered by Snapdragon. There's a variety there, just about anything you can think of. You'll be able to win in this competition. We've given away 4 so far, I think, which means we've still got 12 minus 4 is 8, right? Thanks, Dave. So go and check it out, zatechshow.co.za/Snapdragon. Enter the competition. There's a little puzzle that you have to play. And get your name into the draw for one of those tablets or smartphones. We still have 8 to give away. So go and check it out. And we are very grateful to Snapdragon by Qualcomm for their support of the ZA Tech Show. Because we couldn't do this without them.
And we like doing this.
With all our microphones.
Yeah.
And
The
stuff.
microphones are nice.
The
Yeah.
microphones are nice. All right. Sorry, that was a little bit of inside joke there.
Sedgway. But on the topic of Snapdragon, are you giving away any Windows phones?
Yes.
Cool.
We're giving away one of the Lumias. I think it's the 900, actually.
9, yeah.
Yeah, 900. Here we go. Dave is the speeds and feeds, guys. You need one number subtracted from another, Dave's your man. You need Arthur to pull something that looks like a flute but isn't out of his bag. Dave will tell you what it is, and he's waving it up to the camera. What the hell is that, Arthur?
Flute.
It's not a flute, you're lying. What is it, Dave?
It's a JUD. It's made by a company called J5
There we go.
Create.
You see, this
It's
is
a
why we
docking
like Dave.
station.
You see, I told you it wasn't a flute,
You said
Arthur.
flute, Simon. I can't pull anything over. I can't pull the wool or anything else.
We're
over
a
your
sharp bunch.
eyes. Maybe I should challenge you to a typing comp. No typing.
We've done that as well. Let me see your flute.
Have a look.
When Arthur takes out his flute and offers it around the room, everybody has a gander.
Everyone falls silent.
Oh,
It's
goodness.
the Ultra Station JUD 500 from J5 Create. The beauty of it is it's a docking station, but it also links one machine to another.
Okay.
They use something called wormhole technology to allow you to basically drag
Move
files
backwards and forwards in time.
Yeah, that too. Drag
Okay.
files from one universe to another. Actually, it's true, from one computer to another, even if the one's a Windows.
Obviously, you have to
and the
install
other
some
one's a Mac.
software.
Yes, it comes
Okay.
with software. It's fairly simple to install.
So, for those of you not watching the video, it does look like a flute.
Or a baton?
And it's got a USB 3 cable, some power, so it obviously needs 5 volts in there. 2 other USB ports, an HDMI port, a VGA port, headphone jacks, microphone, Ethernet, and this is another USB.
And a mini
And then the
USB port.
wormhole switch, which looks suspiciously like a micro USB port.
It's a micro
Mini.
USB port.
Mini USB.
Mini USB.
port.
I'm sorry, Dave. You're right. A mini USB port, not a micro USB port, which is the standard used by mobile phone manufacturers now, except for Apple.
Except in Europe, they have to sell an adapter for that.
Do they?
Yeah, because
Go Europe.
the European Standards Commission said that everyone has to use it because we're making too much e-waste by making
I, of
charges
course,
different.
knew this, but it wouldn't be much of a show if it was just my voice all the time. Which is why we set Dave up for correcting us
But
on
it's such a
things.
good
It's
voice time.
So the solution to e-waste is to sell another adapter.
Yes.
I'm just checking.
No, that's Apple's solution. It's to not make it micro USB, but charge people
Well, look at this thing.
$15 for another adapter.
Do you really think that the old MagSafe was so bad that they had to change to this? I'm holding up the MagSafe from the new 15-inch
And a
MacBook
converter
Pro.
will also cost you $10 or something for a little piece of...
I've got one of the converters. They sell them in South Africa for 120 Rand.
Yes, I do.
Yes, you do. Dave Greenway has all the converters you could possibly need.
And more.
How many Twitter followers do you have, though?
Real ones or
Real ones.
real ones? According to that little piece of software, I'm 1% fake. So if we take my round about 1,100, I'm probably shy about 11 of them. So let's go with like.
Well, I know a
1080.
guy who for 500 Rand will get you 5,000 more Twitter followers.
That is amazing. How many will speak to me and not try and sell
None
me
of them
porn
because
or
they're
iPhones?
robots. They're called
Yeah.
BritneyPornbot.com or
Pornbots.
something. Anyway, this was the scandal today. Two Oceans Vibe, who themselves were in a scandal involving numbers surrounding online radio a while ago, today had a story about I'm not sure if she's a blogger or a model or both or neither, but her name's Kirsty
Bissett.
Okay, that. And and they went and interrogated her Twitter followers using this new service that tells you how many of your followers are safe, or I suppose safe, fake, or purports to. I'm not sure exactly how they would calculate that. I suppose they look for Twitter accounts missing avatars and tweeting gobbledygook, or not at all.
No. The porn bots all have avatars, very attractive avatars. I just blocked one earlier today, so I know.
Okay.
But,
well, it turns out a lot of our Twitter celebrities in South Africa have a high percentage of fake followers.
Indeed.
I don't think in South Africa, and this isn't a South African story, because if you had listened to any of the international podcasts last week, they've been talking about this internationally, so not the most original story.
It's not new, but it's quite fun to check out the really big followings. And
So, of course, the first thing I did was go to this service.
Yeah, exactly.
Now,
And
you'll
check
find
Gareth
an
Cliff, of
interesting
course.
thing happening. South African celebrities would have read the story and gone, I wonder how many of mine are fake, and checked, and then tweeted or not. A lot of them, some of which have been on the show, are very curiously quiet through this all as they clean up their Twitter feeds before breaking the news.
I'd be very interested to see Twitter followings next week compared to last week.
Yeah. I actually want to try one of these services where you pay them to add 5,000 Twitter followers.
Just
for the hell of it.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the Two Oceans Vibe story, they go after a digital media company who's
Yes, Guerrilla Creative Media, owned by Barry Tuck, who dates the model blogger
Indeed.
Kirsty.
So it
that
does.
one.
It does kind of. I mean, if you look at the whole presentation of the story, it does seem to center around Guerrilla. And anyway, and so they mea culpa, sorry, we shouldn't have done it on our main account. It was a bit silly. So if you do it, Simon, just register this fake Simon.
Well, it was
112.
interesting looking at this. What's the name of the website?
To where you can
Come
check
on, Dave.
Hold on, I have
While you figure that out.
it was broken while I was using it.
Okay,
so
well,
I closed it.
fakers.social something.
Anyway, well, I figured
I
out
have it
that
here.
7% of my Twitter followers are fake, apparently.
fakers.statuspeople.com.
But here was the more shocking number to me. 39% it said of my Twitter followers were inactive. A, what does that mean? And B, how would you measure it? Because a lot of people, myself included, I don't always use Twitter to say things. Sometimes a week will go by where I haven't tweeted anything, but I still check Twitter all the time because it's replaced RSS feeds for me. I get all of my information from it.
Okay.
There's a lot of sites that will check your inactive following, and that's people who haven't tweeted for a certain period.
Yeah.
And you can set it to tell you how many months you regard as inactive. But that isn't quite an accurate measure, because a lot of people are simply on Twitter to follow others or to follow breaking news.
Most of my least creative friends are just on there, and all they do is absorb information through it. That's it. They couldn't think of a tweet.
I hope they
anymore,
don't
so-
listen to the show either.
No, they're all
Dave
auditors.
Greenway.
They're boring.
Okay.
Like me, actually.
And then suddenly, curiously, Dave couldn't get anybody to come to dinner parties anymore, and he wondered why.
Arthur, something that tickled me looking at this thing was they say that they take a sample of 500 of your followers. Now they warn that for people with a large following, this could cause a problem. But
Very much.
now, how do you get a representative sample of even people with 1,000 followers?
It's funny you should ask that. We have somebody who faces problems like these on a near daily basis. Arthur, how do you take a segment of the population and then purport to know how many of them use Nokias?
There's a very well-known statistical science built around sampling for the level of accuracy that you want. And
Does it have a swear word in its name?
not at all.
The special scientific method.
No, it's simply sampling methodology, traditional or standard scientific sampling methodology or research sampling methodology. You can type those into Google, and there's actually some great resources online. There's actually tools that will tell you what size sample you need for what margin of error.
So for Gareth Cliff's Twitter following, which is 300,000 people or something.
So anything over about 20, a population of more than about 20,000. So that would apply to Twitter followings like Gareth and yours, for example.
No, mine's nowhere near that many because I don't
15,000.
buy followers. Neither does Gareth, mind you, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, I wouldn't imagine that he would, but somehow he's accumulated a very large chunk of fake followers. But
326,726 followers.
That's a lot of followers.
which 29% are fake.
That makes him a big
Which
deal.
is huge. But this is how it works. If the population is over about 20,000, so for any very large population, and you want a margin of error of no greater than 2%, I think the sample size, I speak within the nearest 100 or 2. You need a sample size randomly sampled of about 2,000 to get a margin of error of no more than 2%, or rather the way it's stated scientifically, to have a 98% confidence rating that your margin of error won't be greater than 2%. You can come down to around 1400 for a 97% confidence level that it won't be greater than 3%, the margin of error. But then it starts dropping quite fast. So by the time you get to 500, your potential margin of error is about 6 or 7%.
Does that sound right to you, Dave?
I'm going to say yes.
Okay, must be right then.
There is apparently another service like this which samples 5,000 followers rather than 500. So that might be a lot more accurate.
Yeah, that if it was random sampling, then you couldn't get more accurate than that.
Well, I suppose the rule of thumb is the more numbers, the more accurate, right?
Exactly. But you kind of, when you pass the 1,000 mark, then you're fairly safe. If you're talking about big percentage, like if you talk about 29% fake followers, and you've sampled 1,000 randomly, then chances are that's pretty accurate.
Here's the thing, though.
If it's 1%, then it could be a 3% error either way.
Those of us who've been using Twitter for a long time, some of us from the beginning, will know that this is rubbish, right? Like, who cares?
Yeah.
But it's taken the world until now to realize that maybe there's some validity to this whole social media networking thing, and maybe, yes, for a business this might be important, and Michael Jordan's really cool, and he just changed his avatar, and he's a CEO that they follow. And for those people, the inertia of the Twitters and the Facebooks and I don't know if it's become a thing, right? When they go out and they look for influencers to build into their campaigns for the whatnots that they sell on the TV, they look at these numbers and it means something to them finally after 5 years of early adopter advertising types telling them that it does.
Yeah, you have three schools of thought. You have those who've discovered it in a big way and have turned it into an instant science, and it's a science of business, and they measure all these very esoteric aspects of influence and network, amplification and things like that. And that's when they start believing in gobbledygook like clout. Because clout can really turn you into a believer if you like metrics, because it's got all these interesting kind of metrics.
You see they're overhauling it this week.
Yes,
That's already
about
done.
time.
Oh, okay.
It was way past time for them to fix it, and it still needs quite a bit of fixing. It measures it gives certain social networks far greater currency than their relative weight in the social networking environment.
Here's what I think has happened, right? We had Twitter and it came from nowhere, and some nerds used it and they followed each other, and they had this little glimmer of hope that maybe something had been invented where you could be famous in and of a network without having to be famous outside of that network, and this was awesome. And they spoke about it with their 32 friends. And then the real celebrities came along. The Lady Gagas, the Justin Timberlakes, and the MC Hammers came along.
Lady Gaga, 49% fake.
Well, so is a lot of her body. But
No, that's what I meant.
But they were reminded once again by the cool kids at school that you cannot just be cool in the little club that you've created. The cool kids are still the cool kids because they stand up on stage in meat dresses and wear hip-hop pants and sing the songs on the MTV. And that's the world, right?
Well, I mentioned the first category, which was the guys who have discovered it and believe it, and it's become their religion and their science. At the other extreme, you have especially the older business decision maker who doesn't get it.
Yes.
And the way to deal with what you don't get is to dismiss it out of hand.
Yeah.
And that's the other extreme, and that's as foolish.
So
the middle ground is where you've got to explore and understand the pros and cons and what also makes sense, not just sounds impressive. But in that middle ground is a lot of confusion.
But so to finish off my point, if you want to
Sorry,
know
Simon.
who the influencers are, who the important people are that you need wearing your sneakers if you want to sell a bajillion pairs, don't look at clout. Just look at all the places you looked before. Look at whose videos are on MTV. Look at who has sold out shows at very big stadiums. Those are still the famous people. Jan Vermeulen is famous because he writes awesome things on mybroadband.co.za
And thank you.
talks geek. Not because he's on Twitter and managed to bamboozle some people into following him there. No, not because of that. It's because he is the staff writer sometimes.
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 And are we allowed to do like a Zulu praise dance for you now?
No?
Not like a Simon Dingle is
Well, what
famous
did I do?
because he hosts a podcast and talks
yeah.
on 5FM and stuff.
Well,
Not because you've
Why
got a
don't you
bajillion
why
followers
don't
on
you
Twitter.
Compared
compose
to- I don't have a bajillion
theme,
followers on Twitter.
An anthem for Simon for the next.
Yeah, use
show.
this flute.
We'll call it a dingle jingle.
I'm sure if you blow hard enough into that USB port, something will come out. It might not be
I'm not going to
harmonious.
test your theory.
No, I certainly can't talk about myself on Twitter. I have no followers compared to Gareth Cliff.
Nobody has any followers compared to Gareth Cliff in this room, I think.
No. But if you put us all together, we still wouldn't have.
I'll
any
have you know
followers.
Simon Dingle is the number 2 tech Twitter following in South Africa after Aki Anastasia.
Really? How
Well
many?
done, Si.
I need to go and buy more than Aki did.
Yeah. No, Aki bought a. one of
Mind
those-
you, Aki's been very quiet about Twitter follower buying today.
Not if you bumped into him personally, he was very noisy about
Oh,
it.
really?
Because I think what's happened.
Noisy
is that-
offline, quiet online. What could
No,
it
we
mean?
were talking about the Samsung smart TVs that have social media built into them and you can tweet from your TV. And apparently, if you buy one of these, you get 5,000 followers with it. And Aki bought a whole lot of these TVs.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll happily play second fiddle to Aki. Why not? All right. What do we talk? Oh, yes, Twitter and how nobody cares. This feels like a good time to take another break before we talk about Simfi, which is amazing. You know what else is amazing? Sharp is amazing. The Sharp Interactive Whiteboard especially. Hey, you like that, eh, Dave? See how I did that? The Sharp Interactive Whiteboard. At sharpinteractive.co.za you can find out more. Imagine a whiteboard that's actually an LED. Ta-da! And you can bring up things and you can make notes and you can draw, except when somebody comes in and wipes them off, they aren't gone, they're saved. And you can email your notes and your doodles from the whiteboard and a whole bunch of other documents to people after the meeting. You can patch people in using video conferencing because it's got a camera. It's a whiteboard for the 21st century, and it is pretty amazing. We've got one at our offices in Design Quarter, and I am in love. So go and check it out, sharpinteractive.co.za. I think every single boardroom, at least, especially in creative companies, should have one of these things. But you can also win a 40-inch Sharp LED television. So go over to sharpinteractive.co.za, and we are very, very grateful to Sharp for their support of the ZA Tech Show. That's sharpinteractive.co.za. Go into the competition, win yourself a TV, and check out that interactive whiteboard. Speaking of interaction, I just need to drop the cuck segues.
One last thing about Twitter, I just want to say that to the credit of South African Twitter users or Twitter followers or seekers, they don't give a damn about this fake follower issue.
Of course they
What's
don't.
trending in South Africa today, and what are, I think it's like 7 out of the top trending topics in South Africa, all related to
The mining strike.
Not.
the cricket.
Oh, yeah.
Interesting.
Yes.
There
South
goes my
Africans-
hope for humanity.
South Africans are definitely avid sports fanatics.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Yeah, number 1 is Proteas. Number 3 is Supersport Cricket, SS Cricket. Number 5 is Tahir, then Vernon Philander, then Pryor, then England, then Lords, then South Africa.
Well, I'm glad to see we've got our priorities straight.
Those are tailored for you, though. If you click on the little change button near it, it'll actually tailored it.
It's because you're such a big cricket fan.
Yeah, right.
No, because 8 of mine are, but like mine are like I have Tony Scott and Top Gun at the top, which is of course the director
Yes,
who jumped
Tony
off the
Scott
bridge,
committed suicide. Ridley Scott's
All I
brother.
ask
Yeah.
for South Africa, I don't
Very sad.
set it in any other way. What's trending in
Neither do
South
I.
Africa? Strange, huh? Maybe it's based on
Should we
his-
talk-
I'm going to Transmap, and then we'll see what's
Should we
trending.
talk
Go for it.
briefly about Twitter's API changes, which might eventually, if they
Shaft
continue
the
down this
internet.
path, shaft trend map for one?
Amongst other things, yeah.
I think it's a topic that's been done to death online, so maybe we just skip over it.
Yep.
The long and the short of it is,
They're sharp.
If you're looking for the next thing, go to app.net and pay $50. Tweet with the other 40 people there because Lady Gaga hasn't showed up yet.
But she will.
She will. She'll pay her $50 and then it's on like Donkey Kong.
Yeah.
It's a sad world we live in, kids. That's why us nerds need to pull together and follow each other. And Aki Anastasiou.
There's always, I don't know if you've mentioned this in your other discussions on the topic, but there's always status.net and Identica, which literally all the Twitter app makers have to do is they have to change the URL for the RESTful API, and it should work. Because
but Twitter's doing other things. They're talking about 100,000 user limit on an application, and then it's like, well, let's see what happens then. Maybe we kill your app, maybe we buy it, maybe we do nothing, which isn't the kind of uncertainty that you want to build a business on.
Basically, all they're doing is putting in a marker. So if anyone hits this marker and it sends us an email, it's either we shut them down or we buy them.
Yes.
That's essentially what they're doing They're just putting a little quick if statement in.
What made Twitter awesome was this sort of third-party ecosystem of apps and clients, and I mean that's where TweetDeck came from. They were eventually acquired by Twitter, but started out as an independent Twitter application that gave you a whole different experience of the social network. Like the clouts of the world, whether you think there's any merit to it or not, it relies on an open API to pull in data. I just think it's a sad world where companies go, well, this doesn't gel so nicely with our advertising revenue model, so let's close it up.
Which we still haven't figured out.
Which we still haven't figured. Although I think they're making good Tom from advertising at the moment, Arthur. Promoted tweets.
But not
I
enough.
checked one from MTN the other day, actually.
Yeah, I get MTN and Nokia a lot.
I think MTN might have a bit of money to spend in the space. I think they might be all right. They might be flush. All right. Let's talk about Simfi. Finally, South Africa has a world-class, or is it, streaming music service along the lines of a Spotify or an Audio or a Mog or Rhapsody, I think was the first one. But basically the idea is it's not like iTunes where you go and buy an MP3 or a song or an album. You pay an all-you-can-eat license fee, basically. $60 a month subscription.
Same as BIS.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's
pretty
significant.
much. And you can access the world of music. Well, if it's on Simfi. They've got, I think they said 18 million songs in their catalogue. They've got a lot of things. I've looked for a few things they didn't have. Granted, a bit obscure, but they didn't have them.
But you tried to find the obscure things that they didn't have. It wasn't.
No, actually, I didn't. It was like some Ninja Tunes artists that I enjoy, and Duncan McLeod from Tech Central was tweeting about the fact that he couldn't find Pink Floyd. Yeah. There's not a lot of Pink Floyd on there. But I'm excited, and I'm excited because I have used Spotify. I think all of us have at least tried it. And it's an amazing service. And once you go to all-you-can-eat streaming music, there's no going back. I remember I used Rhapsody for a while when I was in the States. I eventually settled on Mog. I really liked Mog. Mog and Audio were my two favorites. And I was using Mog in the States, got back to South Africa, got geolocated and informed that all of a sudden my subscription wasn't valid anymore and I couldn't access the music. And yes, you can VPN and proxy tunnel and all the rest of it, but as illegal as just downloading the music, ironically, even though you're paying for it. So there you go. You can't go backwards. So back in South Africa, no Mog, no streaming music, not very down with the paying for downloads model or buying CDs. But Simfi to the rescue. Have you guys been trying it out? Jan, you've got an account?
Yeah, I do.
And how are you finding it?
It's pretty good. I'm not a huge fan of Adobe Air on desktop, but I understand.
Yeah, their desktop apps, Adobe Air, it's terrible.
Yeah, I understand why you'd go with that. So that you don't have to develop native apps for every platform you want to try and support. Now, Linux hackers can at least try to get the app working on their platform, even though it's not officially supported.
Well, it would be easy for them to roll it out via Adobe Air.
Yeah.
Conceptually, it's supposed to be really simple.
Yes, yeah. So I use TweetDeck on Linux a lot. So getting Adobe Air working on Linux is not exact. It's not actually rocket science. I think if you're using Ubuntu, you could just and 32-bit Ubuntu, you just pull it from the repo. But that said, the desktop app is interface-wise a lot better than the Android app I tried to use. I've not been able to use the iPhone app because I've got a US iTunes account and I don't want to swap them just to try the app. And I had an Android device anyway, so I tried it on there. I
couldn't get the Android app to work on my Nexus running Jelly Bean. It just would not play. Okay. On 3G, on Wi-Fi, it just wouldn't play.
Yeah, that's true. Your Galaxy Nexus, I have had issues like that. What network are you on?
Vodacom.
Yes, I've had exact my Google Music on Vodacom on the Galaxy Nexus also refuses to work over 3G.
That's interesting.
Wi-Fi used to work though, so if you
No, mine wasn't working on anything.
Wi-Fi either.
I'll,
Okay.
you know what? I'll do updates tonight and stuff and try again.
Yeah.
The iPhone app seems to work well. We should probably give people more information. You spell this Simfy, pronounced Simfy. I
Not
thought it was
Simphy.
Simphy,
Yeah.
but not. So simfy.co.za. You can't have an account yet, but you can sign up. They're launching in about 10 days from now.
7 days now.
7 days from now. So around the 27th of August 2012. If it's after that date and you're listening to this, you can sign up. But if you kind of pre-register, you can win, I think, an account.
Yes,
They're giving away
a few accounts. Yeah.
They're giving away a few free accounts for a year or whatever. So it's worth signing up. And I suppose also showing them that we've got a bit of a market. It's owned, well, it's an initiative of Exact Mobile, which means it's part of Primedia. It's a service that was launched in Cologne in Germany. I think the only countries it's available are Germany, Switzerland, they said, and then somewhere like Austria and South Africa, or Belgium, or something like that.
It has taken on. No, hang on a second. It was the other way around. Spotify actually came to Germany to come and compete against Simfy in their home territory.
I wonder how they did there.
What I
Very
find
similar
fascinating
services.
Is its ancestry, because it was started by one Davin Mole, who was the founder of Exact Mobile, and his family owned, if I remember correctly, the RF Group, which was originally the Nokia distributor in South Africa. They built Nokia to, at that stage, I think something like 75% market share, and in that time launched Exact Mobile as well. So Gavin Penkin was the face of Exact Mobile, but Davin Mole was the brains behind it. And he's the brains behind Simfy. So I think he's been around the block enough times to figure out what works. So
You
that's
really needed some
interesting.
South Africans to make this work, because not to get too technical with the details of the music industry, but setting up a service like this is not easy. For one, you can't get blanket music licenses for the globe. You have to go and broker a license for each territory with a label. So if you want to launch a service like this in South Africa, you need to speak to Sony Music South Africa and all the other labels in South Africa, and every other country where you want to launch. You have to broker individual licenses, set yourself up with the royalty agency, which is Samro in South Africa, or whoever in the countries you want to deal. It's a spiel.
Yes.
So I spoke to the guys at Audio, for example, and they were like, we'd love to launch in South Africa. We can't wait, but it's a hell of a lot of work for each country we do, and you just have to wait for us to get to you.
Yeah, we don't have the contacts there or whatever. It's going to take a while to get to know the folks, and get around the table and discuss the business deal. What was interesting, for example, is that Simfy has the big four music labels behind it.
That's what I also wanted to mention, is the fact that it's got those labels is really a powerful advantage it has.
And then
But now, interestingly, to tie into what you were saying about the local representation, Warner, for example, they go through Gallo in
Yes,
South Africa.
yes,
So
yeah.
it's not like they just go to Warner Group.
no,
in the
you'd
US.
have to speak together. No, but they've got a great selection of local music on that point. You mentioned the Adobe Air desktop app, which is okay. It looks a lot like iTunes. You can listen to music offline. It caches the files locally. You can obviously only access them through the Simfy application. They've got some heavy DRM. Maybe you can crack it. I don't know. Doesn't matter. And then they've got an iPhone app, an Android app, and a BlackBerry app. And I suspect one of the reasons that Exact Mobile went with Simfy and not one of the others is because very few of these services globally have BlackBerry
BlackBerry
apps.
apps.
And in South Africa at the moment,
Will it stream
Arthur
over
will
BIS?
tell you that's quite important.
That's the next question.
I don't
isn't
know.
it?
Good
'Cause
question.
if it does, this thing canes. It rocks.
Will it what, sorry?
If
everyone.
it streams over BIS.
If it streams over BIS, this thing is set. Then
That's a great question.
that.
I've heard someone said it does, but I need to see evidence in their bill at the end of the month.
Yeah,
Yes.
there have been. I can test this with a person on a prepaid account, so I will do that. But ATA, for example, gives you 500 megs of streaming data, so I'll be able to see fairly easily which one it comes off of. But there have been issues, for example, on BIS recently, on Vodacom specifically, but other networks have had complaints as well. People using WhatsApp and getting billed on their normal bill little bits of data going through. There seems to be an issue with the APN switching, and this is all app controlled. So for Simfy to run on BIS, I hope that code is rock solid, that it doesn't flit over to the internet APN
Intermittently.
No.
yeah, when
Yeah.
something happens.
In terms of bandwidth consumed, they say all of the MP3s, it uses MP3s, are encoded at 192 kilobits per second. So you're going to consume somewhere between 80 and 90 meg an hour listening to Simfi on streaming.
Which is about average.
Yeah, you can cache the songs. I must say, in my experience with it, the audio quality has been very good. I'm not sure if they're doing something special with the encoding or if they got some codecs that they don't talk about, but the quality really is very good. And if I compare it to the other services I've tried, and they're all pretty good, Spotify's pretty good, audio is a little bit better, arguably, in terms of sound quality. Rhapsody, once they refreshed their library, I think they went all the way up to 320 kilobits per second, got really good at a stage. And this compares with the best of them that I've heard. So the audio quality is very good. It's not going to please audiophiles who still listen to CDs, vinyls, or rip
In
things to
lossless
WAV.
audio.
FLAC. Yeah.
FLAC files. Those cats aren't going to love it, but
But they'll never be happy with anything.
exactly.
So it's fine.
And actually, maybe they're full of it, and they should get over themselves and give it a chance because it's not so bad. Oh, one problem with the iOS app is it doesn't support AirPlay, from what I can tell.
Okay.
So you kind of have to, if you go into the native music app on the iPhone and tell that to stream to an AirPlay device and then open up the Simfi app, it'll probably play
So
to
you can
it.
game it.
Well, yeah. And it works over Bluetooth in my car fine. The Bluetooth audio stack in my car, it plays over that just fine.
Okay.
Kind of auto detects that I'm on Bluetooth and off you go.
Yeah, yeah. And another thing I ran into on the desktop app is it doesn't support the media keys on my laptop or on my desktop natively.
That's less than ideal.
Yeah, so that's something I use quite a lot, especially if you also just want to skip a song. Say you're running, because it's got a radio option, which isn't as good as Nokia Mix Radio, but I mean, still, it's
very
Very
basic.
few things are as good
Yeah.
as Nokia Mix
It's
Radio.
it's like Pandora, but without the algorithms that make Pandora Pandora. You give it a name of a band, and it just starts streaming you music that it thinks is similar.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not bad, as you said, but that's not what it's designed for. It really is designed for going out and listening
Yeah.
to individual artists.
But if
I
I'm
think.
running that, I really want to be able to go skip. I really don't want to listen to this now,
Yes,
or
yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
So, and it's tedious having to first find the app and then click next on it.
But it's exciting. I think South Africans have watched the rest of the world consuming services like Spotify and wish that we had something like it, and now we do. So
Yeah.
go and check out
Agreed.
simfi.co.za.
Next is Netflix. That's
I hope
just-
so. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
Netflix has had some bad press overseas, though, so I'm wondering if you're not going to climb into that bandwagon a little late. There are services which will ship you DVDs and stuff. You can, rent DVDs via
Yes.
via the mail system.
But you want internet
Netflix
deliveries.
model. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
It's coming.
Yeah, I mean, we've got Box Office,
Which is a
which
good
is in
step.
which is in closed beta.
Yeah.
So there's like 1,000 folks or whatever on there. So yeah, I hope we haven't kind of missed that whole.
No, it'll
whole thing
happen.
because of
Look,
the-
it's a shift. It's as with any shift from an old industry to the disruptive new industry. You've got companies protecting their revenue streams for as long as they can, and I think that seesaw's finally not tipping when it comes to streaming content. And then the whole world opens up, and it'll happen. Unfortunately, we're on the tail end of that whole seesaw, but we'll get there. You know, guys, I wanted to talk about On Live, this streaming games, talking about streaming media company that's folded and now been acquired by another company that's going to keep the name and carry on the same. Although HTC still managed to lose $40 million. Interesting story. I wanted to talk a little bit about mobile data prices in SA, but I think we need to do our picks of the week because we are running out of time. So if you haven't heard the show before, seen it, this is where we talk about some of the technologies that we're excited about at the moment, that we've been playing with, that we really enjoy. Arthur usually has about 800, and so maybe we should start with him.
Don't exaggerate, Simon. Only 8.
Okay.
Okay.
So you're going to start with the magical flute.
I thought we already dealt with that.
Yeah, we already did. Let's move on.
Yeah, but let's just mention the Ultra Station is my pick of the week because it just looks so cool and it's also a useful blunt instrument.
Doubles as self-defense in a pinch.
Exactly. Then right at the other end of the sophistication scale, cool. Look at that.
That's
We
actually
have
its purpose.
the Vodafone 155.
Are you picking feature phones again?
Yes, it's a feature phone.
Those are awesome
But-
giant buttons.
Exactly.
What's
You
that
heard
one
what he
called?
said.
The 155.
The Vodafone 155.
You know they call that
with-
the granny phone.
I know a certain boss who might love that phone.
But it's a granny phone with awesome big buttons.
Yeah, well, Tom
That's-
London, who used to work at 702 at the same time I did and was here earlier this evening, He used to use one of those because he says it's the only thing with the ringing volume so loud that you can hear it at a rock concert.
Well, that's actually a great use for it because it's a great backup phone. It costs about $3.99 on prepaid, but on contract it's 39 Rand a month, and with that you get 49 Rand a month airtime. So the phone's virtually free with the airtime if you're willing to be seen with a phone like this.
Hey, I'll
But
rock one of those. Let me see.
retro.
It's cool in its own way. Yeah, it's got that kind of retro feel to it.
Well, for
like-
one, you can't miss the
Wow.
buttons.
it's it's iconic because
It's
if you
iconic.
if you watch, for example, in a movie where they show someone accessing a website or something, everything gets blown up so that you can actually see it. Because if they showed a browser in its normal size on a computer screen in a movie, no one would be able to see what's going on. So they make it large, and you see these download bars that fill the whole screen and that kind of thing. And that's kind of the phone equivalent of that.
I love
I
this.
can see this phone being used in movies because you can see the number the guy's dialing.
It has a call log. It has an address book. That's interesting.
Does that sync with Google? 'Cause
It
that's
has-
going to be my biggest obstacle, I think.
It has messaging, which lies a little bit because it's got a picture of an envelope on it. It's really just SMS.
And it's got
Then it's got a calendar. And the amazing thing about the calendar is you open it up and then you can see the calendar. You can literally
got
see
one more
this
thing.
month's calendar. It's got a toolbox. It says tools, and if I open tools, it's got voice reminder and SOS because it's for old people. And I know what Arthur's referring to, the FM radio, which gets him very excited.
yes, FM radio. FM radio.
Killer feature.
And now going back to the mobility study, just to mention why that is so significant, if I can find the features
What happens
that
if you
people
push
use
the
on their
heart thing?
phones. The second most
Emergency
used
button.
That's SOS. Maybe you should just
the
do.
second most used feature on
kinda
phones
did.
in South Africa, Simon,
Yes.
is after the camera, which is used by 66% of
This
cell phone
doesn't have
owners.
one.
No, it doesn't. But after the camera, number 2 is FM radio. 49% of South Africans use FM radio on their phones.
What's this heart button on the back? It's got a
That's
picture
the
of a heart in
SOS
it.
button.
Okay, I pushed that.
And
I'm
you
sorry.
hold it down,
Oh, I just pushed it once.
and the emergency crew will be coming for you.
Oh, you have to hold it down.
Yeah, you hold it down and it sends a text alert and a voice message to 4 pre-designated emergency numbers.
Very clever.
Plus, it calls the emergency crew
Oh,
to
there
come
you
take
go.
you away.
The granny phone.
The granny phone.
Okay, so we got the
then-
Vodafone 155, your Ultra Station.
Then something called
Oh, you see, there's more.
that's called a
That's
Pong
an
cover.
iPhone case.
It's an iPhone.
You
case,
just picked an
but-
iPhone case.
But there's also
Does it levitate and spit out diamonds?
yes,
Okay.
that too.
Well, then I'm interested.
Here's the BlackBerry 9300 version of this.
Well, those
Now
are
what
cases
these do-
that you're.
They redistribute radiation without weakening the signal.
But
Now
the thing is that cell phone gives off less radiation than a banana, so why would I care?
Because all of that radiation is pumping into your brain. And if you're scared of radiation,
We mustn't have
and
this
some of us are,
discussion.
no, I do
There's
agree
nothing
with
to
you.
fear.
I do agree.
If
that
you
there's-
sleep in bed
no,
next to
no,
somebody, you absorb more radiation.
No, there's little to fear. But the World Health Organization has said that it's not proven, so that's been used by everyone as an alarm signal. So if you're scared of
They
radiation,
said it's as dangerous as coffee.
As coffee, yeah. It's exactly the same rating
it's
of
dangerous as coffee. You're
carcinogen as
exposing your
coffee.
kids to coffee.
All day, every day. All the
Okay.
kids that I don't have.
Okay, so shelve that. But be that as it may, if you're scared of radiation, this redistributes the radiation without weakening the signal.
Do they
Why
make
is
them
that
for
significant?
bananas, which are more dangerous?
No, I'll tell you why that's significant. Because
Or
in
carrots?
the United States, supposedly lab tests have shown, and now this isn't peer reviewed. It's the Pong Research Lab.
Say no more. Pong Research Labs, eh? They may as well call them Woo Research Labs.
Good idea. So what they've found is that
Do they
when
make
you put
bangles
the
with
phone-
stickers on that make you stronger as well and balance better?
no, they just balance your energies. they
Oh, Arthur.
they found that actually it was an independent lab, but I haven't heard of any other independent labs that have bothered to invest in this
No,
technology.
many have
What it
tested
shows-
and found nothing.
No, I'm not talking about the radiation. When you put the phone to your ear,
It gets warmer.
no, it actually weakens the signal because of FCC regulations limiting the amount
Yeah,
Of-
that is true.
of signal.
But you
And
don't need a
what
lab
these,
to tell
What
you
these
that.
covers do is
Boost
they-
it.
they prevent the phone from picking up that you stuck it next to your brain.
So they actually boost the radiation.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Now I want one. It makes my phone's transmitter stronger. That's what I need.
Exactly. That's what they do. So they make the
but
phone
you
signal
just said it-
stronger but they redistribute the radiation.
Can I tell you what I think is going on here, Arthur? I think it's a plastic iPhone cover with a really neat story being told
Oh,
about it.
Simon, you blew my cover.
It's a special new compound we've discovered called quandamonium, and in our labs, it both makes the cell phone more powerful, but also protects you from the radiation.
Stim, you're blowing my cover.
And you know why this
You're
works?
blowing my cover,
Because there
Simon.
is no problem. All right. Arthur, those
Okay.
were spectacular picks.
Then I've got two
course you do.
far more practical picks on the web. And this is premised on the launch this morning, the official launch in South Africa of the Kindle Touch 3G and Wi-Fi, which was launched by Circuit City, South Africa this morning.
Okay.
One, Steve Nossel, who has the agency for Kindle in South Africa, and he's provided to Incredible Connection, Hi-Fi Corp, and places like that. So the top of the range, which is a $149 Kindle or £149 Kindle, that's selling for about 2,500 rand in South Africa.
2699.
So
It's not bad.
it's not bad, but if you can get it directly, obviously it's a lot cheaper.
Mm.
But what he did highlight, which I wasn't
Actually, it
aware
is
of,
quite bad. What am I saying?
was
Amazon's support to South Africa is also very good.
Yeah.
I mean, you won't be walking into shop and walking out with a Kindle. You'll be waiting a few days.
But that's what I always say to people is if you want a Kindle, order it on Amazon, unless you want one of the models that aren't supported here, obviously. But
no, they're adamant that they don't support it locally, that you've got to ship it off to the States.
Okay.
Whereas,
Yeah, but if
these
something-
ones,
Yeah, if
you-
something
you
goes
take-
wrong,
you
you
take
have
it
to.
in.
But if something
Yeah.
goes wrong with a Kindle, every single story I've heard is Amazon just ships you a new one.
yeah,
So,
they
like
do.
sometimes they even ask for the broken one
Yeah.
back.
I know so many people it's happened to.
Yeah.
Plus, a lot of the Kindle support guys sit in their call center in Cape Town.
That's
the Cape
correct.
Town call center in Gardens, one of their main sort of
Correct.
areas they work on is Kindle,
They've got more than 1,000 people working there.
which
but-
means there's probably more Kindles in Gardens than any other suburb of any other city.
Probably. What Steve did highlight this morning was a free Kindle, free Kindle books for download, but it's a newsletter that goes out every day highlighting the latest new free Kindle books that you can download.
Okay,
And it's so that's what I want to highlight, not the Kindle itself,
but
but
the newsletter.
a site called ereaderiq.com. E-reader followed by the letters iq.com.
Bookmarking.
You type that in, and essentially there are thousands of free books for your
Yeah,
Kindle that you
because
can
there are
download
promotions
from
running
there.
every day, but it's
Yeah.
difficult to find them. All right, cool.
But the newsletter that you can sign up to alerts you every day to what's available. But also on a Kindle note, finally, sorry Simon, a Kindle app. There aren't too many Kindle apps. It's called Notepad, and it's basically an app that you can put on your Kindle to take notes and the like. And it costs all of a few dollars. I can never find the
Okay.
price of this thing. But for I think about $9, the price of an ebook on Amazon, you can download an app called Notepad. It reminds me of back in the day with Windows 3.1 and an app. They called them applications in those days called Notepad. Do you remember Notepad?
It's
That
still
most
around.
people wrote their HTML websites in.
Yes,
Still do.
still do. If you want clean text, it's a good place to go if you're on Windows. All right, nice picks. Thank you, Arthur. Dave,
Yeah.
what would you like to pick this week?
What would I like to? Let's stick
go
with what
with-
it's safe to pick this week.
That would be a good suggestion.
Okay, first pick is also an iPhone case. I love this thing. It's called the Boost case. It's basically a little thin 1.5mm plastic iPhone case that you see on pretty much everyone's iPhone who doesn't
going
want
to
it.
mock your iPhone case.
Yeah. But it's got a second piece, which is a battery pack that sort of slips into the first.
Okay,
Oh,
so when the
normal iPhone-
battery's
exactly.
finished, you take it off.
Exactly.
Unlike the other big booster cases.
Yeah, so
that-
something like a Mophie Boost Juice Pack Air or whatever, it's permanently got that lead weight attached to it, and you can just snap the battery on and snap it off when you need it on this one, which I thought was kind of cool.
And that means you can carry spare batteries around as well, I presume.
So you
Okay.
can carry several spare batteries around with you. It's kind of
Nice.
cool. It's
iPhone only, or do they make Android versions too? Maybe,
at this point in time, the only one I can see is iPhone.
maybe for the S2 or something.
Yeah, it's only iPhone at the moment, but they'll have to make a new
Okay.
one for a new iPhone soon. So you
Cool,
never know
nice
what they'll
pick.
do.
What does it go for?
They're $7.99, I think. I will
Alrighty.
double check for you quickly.
That's fine.
But while I'm doing that, the second thing I will pick is the Motorola Razr Max, which I will pick because it has a 3300 milliamp hour battery, which is just under 2 iPhones worth.
Yeah.
So you can sit there doing everything for an entire day and actually make it through morning to night.
An
reading
Android
emails.
smartphone that actually makes it through a day.
Yeah, with a 4.3-inch screen. So that's
How long
It's-
does your granny phone last for, Arthur?
like
2
6
weeks.
months. No, like
6 months.
6 months.
Months.
Minimum. Like even using it for calls.
Nice, cool.
Yeah, and
nice
then-
picks. Oh, you got another
Yeah,
one.
one quick one. So the MacBook Pro that you have, the Retina one, the nice new shiny one, you can't really upgrade anything on that, sort of like a MacBook Air.
Yes.
There's a company in the States, Otherworld Computing. They specialized in making hard drive, storage upgrades
Alright.
for the MacBook Air. They've just come out with one for the MacBook Pro as
Oh
well.
wow, where did they find space in that case?
So basically what happens is the RAM is soldered onto the board, so you
Yes.
can't upgrade that. That's done.
Same with
But,
the hard
yeah,
drive
same-
storage.
No, it's not actually soldered on. It's a proprietary daughter board chip that they've made. It's different in the Air and different in the Pro, so they're not interchangeable. But somehow these guys have managed to make a 480 gig one. So if you've got the 256, you can upgrade. It's not worth it, obviously, if you have the 512.
Yeah.
But it's not
Okay.
exactly cheap. It's a $580 upgrade. So if
Jeez.
you've got to
Apple
sort
can
of,
probably do it for cheaper for you.
the Apple won't though.
No, but I mean, you
Yeah.
could get
no,
the
if you were
more
buying new,
expensive
yeah. But this is for the person who buys the 256 because
and
they're
realizes that they've been a fool.
yeah, and then they import their iTunes library and their photo library across, and they realize that they're screwed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So very cool. I like it.
Nice. Alrighty. Thanks, Dave. Jan, do you have any picks for us?
Yeah, one, and I bored the guys on Let's Talk Geek with it last week, so I'm going to bore you guys with it just a little.
Alrighty.
It's a mechanical keyboard, old school clickety-clack mechanical keyboard. So they still make those, and in fact they're quite a cult item. So
Is that the one based on the typewriter? It looks like a typewriter keyboard.
no,
I've seen those.
this is like they actually market it as gamer keyboards.
Okay.
And so each key gets an individual switch, and there's different colors. The different mechanisms get given different colors. So the one I've got is a Cherry MX Black CM Storm keyboard, and that's a pure linear action. And then it makes a giant clack when it hits the bottom. And then you get blue keys, Cherry MX Blue switches, and they give you an audible click on top of the mechanical action. So they actually click back at you.
Okay.
So those are readily available in South Africa. Then you get the more niche ones, like the old IBM Model M keyboard
Nice.
that are made with old buckling spring switches. And that'll cost you like $100 and like another $100 to ship into South Africa because of the weight. It's a 5-pound keyboard. I don't know what that is in kilos. I'll have to look at it.
But when you're coding something, it really sounds like you're working.
Or writing something. I must say, all of a sudden people at the office think I'm actually
I
doing
love that
some work.
sound.
Clack, 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 clack. Exactly. It almost sounds like a typewriter, and the guys are mocking me, like going, where's the feedback tray going?
know that. I want that. If I was buying that keyboard, I'd be irritated that when I hit enter, it didn't make the bing sound.
So where can you get those from, Jan?
Okay, so I bought mine from ComX Computers, just an online shop, and I found them to be the cheapest.
And what did you say the brand was?
CM Storm. It's Cooler Master.
Okay.
Yeah, Cooler Master. Razer also makes mechanical keyboards. Cooler Master make a whole range of these. This one is their CM Storm range. It's got no numpad.
Okay.
They call it 10 keyless.
Very cool.
I like that.
Alrighty,
Cool.
Nice picks. We've discussed Simfy ad nauseum, but that would be my pick this week. I think if you've been waiting for Spotify to hit South Africa, go and sign up. Put down your name. It's 2 weeks free. Check out Simfy. I think we need a service like this to do well in South Africa so that it opens the door for many more. So go and check out Simfy, simfy.co.za. And I think with that, we'll wrap up the show, gents. It's been a good one. Thank you so much for being here, all of you. Arthur Goldstuck, as always, a pleasure. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Simon.
It was great catching up on all the latest research and some of those surprises.
There's a lot more to come.
Yeah, MD of Worldwide Works at Art2G. ART, the number 2, GEE. on
Only
Twitter.
4% fake.
Only 4% fake. Beats me. I'm 7%.
Simon
Dave
Bingle.
Greenway was here as well. Thank you, Dave. At Dave Greenway on Twitter. Check out shopandship.co.za.
That would be it.
Yeah, what the hell? That's journalism in the 21st century. Some of us talk about gadgets and others of us sell them. Why not? Jan, it's been great having you on the show, man.
Yeah, thanks for
Please
inviting
come
me.
back.
Will do.
Check
And
out,
you guys should come to our show as well. That'd be rad.
That would be great. Love to do that. At Jan VZA on, why am I saying Z? VZA on Twitter. Otherwise, mybroadband.co.za. It's great to have you on the show. Thank you very much.
Cool, thank you.
You brought a cake with you. We haven't touched it.
Yeah, the guys on the video might be able to see it. I'm not sure if they can see it now. But yeah, it's a spaceship cake.
From
That would have been
Samsung.
that would have been, from Samsung.
Was your birthday
My
recently?
birthday on Saturday.
Happy birthday, man.
Thank you very much.
The big what? 2-1.
Yeah, it's the
You're
8th
telling
anniversary of my 21st birthday.
Nice. Alrighty. Cool. Well, thanks for being here, Jan. It was awesome.
Thanks for having me.
And that's it for episode 222 of the ZA Tech Show, recorded on Monday night, the 20th of August 2012. My name is Simon Dingle, and the ZA Tech Show, of course, is made possible by Snapdragon from Qualcomm, the all-in-one mobile processor. Check out zatechshow.co.za/Snapdragon, where you can win one of those smartphones or tablets that we're giving away. And, of course, by Sharp, with the amazing new Sharp Interactive Whiteboard. Go and check it out at sharpinteractive.co.za, where you can also win a 40-inch LED television. And that's it for this week. Goodbye.